Hey all, welcome back to Welcome to My World. I apologize if you were just listening in. We were having some technical issues and I just wasn't comfortable keeping that episode out there with all of the interruptions and the technical malfunctions that we were having. So please excuse the interruptions, and we're going to redo the episode right now. So what we were discussing previously is purity testing and how that relates to narcissism and cluster B behavior. And it is a maladaptive behavior that folks on the cluster B spectrum, particularly narcissists, sociopaths, well, really particularly narcissists and sociopaths, but also to some extent folks with borderline personality disorder and histrionic personality disorder and psychopathy do this. But really, this is most prevalent among narcissists and sociopaths, and even more so among covert narcissists. So we're not talking about narcissism similar to certain elected officials, or at least it seems that certain elected officials present with narcissism, and that's all I'm going to say. I'm not here to diagnose. I can't do that, and that person isn't coming to see me, so it wouldn't be appropriate for me to do that. I'm not Dr. Phil, I'm not Dr. Drew, right? I like to keep things ethical. I like to keep things respectable and on the up and up and above board. But I'm not talking about that kind of overt, over-the-top, crazy, I'm the best, everyone else is a loser type of narcissism. I'm talking about covert narcissism, even altruistic narcissism, which is actually a thing. We're not going to digress. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole right now, but I promise we will discuss it at a later time, either on my channel, Welcome to My World, Dominique Does Life, or on Welcome to My World right here on Spreaker. So essentially, what these mainly covert narcissists and sociopaths will do, and folks, I want to really have you try to challenge yourselves with this one and ask yourselves if you're possibly experiencing this with somebody you love or somebody that you're close to. So here's what happens. Here's what the purity test is all about. For instance, somebody that this person in your life knows might have wronged them, or they may be presenting the situation as if they have been wronged, when in fact this is about ego and egotism, and they haven't been. But either way, they can't help themselves. Narcissists can't help themselves. They are going to come through and accuse somebody in their sphere, possibly a group of somebodies. They like conspiracies where they're at the center and they're the victim of wrongdoing of some sort. Doesn't really matter what kind of wrongdoing, but it's going to come up. The accusations are going to fly, and this is what's going to happen. And once this happens, they will start developing a narrative, and they'll try to sell you on the narrative because they need something from you. The first thing they definitely need, among other things, I don't know your specific situation, so I can't comment on what their other motivations might be, but the first thing they need is to make it look like someone else has a problem with this person's behavior, to make it look like the behavior was inappropriate, to make it look like what was said or done or what they have said happened really happened. And, if they're the one always crying wolf, and they're the only one always crying wolf with people, folks are going to catch on, and they know this deep down. Whether they're at the point of conscious realization or not, they know this deep down. So, what's the best way to not look like you're the perpetrator and to not look like you're the one casting blame and casting doubt on folks? Well, Best way to do that is to pull somebody else in and have somebody else be just as outraged as you are. Damn it, this person is horrible and so can back me up. John can back me up on this. Kim can definitely back me up. They hate this person too, right? So either the narcissist or cluster B will say something along the lines of, well, so-and-so did such and such to me, and they weren't too kind about you either. They had some real interesting stuff to say about you too. I didn't want to tell you this, but since we are friends and I've got your back and I'm looking out for you, just letting you know, this is what this person said / did. And of course, any person who has normal emotions and feelings and empathy and compassion and kindness and who isn't narcissistically grandiose is going to consider that, oh my gosh, maybe that person does think that, and oh my god, maybe they're right, maybe I am a jerk, maybe that person really did say I'm a jerk, and maybe I'm a real jerk, oh my god, oh, I'm so hurt. And then the narcissist or cluster B is going to count on that reaction, and they're going to count on you to get on board with their program. And so they're really good at ostracizing. They're really good at shutting people out. And what they're going to very likely do, sometimes they're consciously aware of this, other times it's just almost a reflexive action on their part. But they're going to start laying it on thick with you. And yes, they will know, if they know you at all, they'll know exactly what works with you and exactly what doesn't. So they're going to tailor their campaign to your specific triggers. Maybe you're triggered, like I'm triggered by injustice and disrespect. And I know this. So they're definitely knowing, if I were the one being targeted by the cluster B, I'm self-aware enough to know, through personal experience, that these are both strengths and weaknesses for me, and that it's likely that they're going to really play on that and make it come off as if someone has, in some way disrespected them or treated them in a way that was hurtful, right? So that was unjust. And so they're tailoring their campaign, they're tailoring their argument to me. When they talk about this person that they are trying to ostracize with someone else, they're going to tailor their argument to that person. And frankly, it's rather troubling. It's rather disturbing. Now, what you need to do is be honest with yourself. You may really care about this person, but if they're doing this to you, do you really want to ostracize that individual or that group of people? Because if you do, you're going to just be thrown into the exact same, pit of snakes that the narcissist or cluster B is in. You're going to be thrown to the wolves with them, and if anything, they may heal their relationship with this person later on and then leave you out in the cold when you're no longer of use to them. And anything you've said about this person is going to be repeated back to them, and then you're going to be made to look like the bad guy. They're really highly attuned at this sort of behavior, and they're very good at this. Not because they're, evil geniuses like some people, many of my clients think they are. Oh my God, these people are psychic. They're evil geniuses. Well, they're not. They've just like somebody with an actual disability who's differently abled, perhaps somebody who's blind or deaf, they develop, because they lack empathy, they lack that sense, they develop other senses and other coping skills to compensate for it, but they don't develop healthy coping skills like somebody who is visually or hearing challenged or impaired. They don't develop healthy senses and healthy coping skills. They develop highly unhealthy and inappropriate coping skills and boundaries. And if you love this person, you care about them, especially you're going to like them a lot because they emulate you. They mirror you. They'll be mirroring your actions, mirroring your movements, mirroring the words you use, mirroring your terminology, mirroring your personality, because they truly don't have one of their own. So you're really going to like them because of this. I mean, it's a fact. When people mirror, you like them. You don't always know why, but you're like, oh, there's something I like about this guy. Yeah, he's really down to earth. Or, oh, there's something I like about this gal. She's chatty like me, and, you know, she likes to talk, and she likes to discuss things, and she likes literature, and she likes this movie and this book, and, you know. So they're going to tailor their personality to you. They're going to tailor all of their campaigns against people to you and to your specific needs and wants and the things that attract you and your personality. So it's really important to know this. So I know that you're going to discard this when you hear this initially, because you're going to go, rather, if I could speak English today. Yeah, so truly they're going to tailor this campaign to you, and you're going to go, you know, no, that can't be true. Like, yeah, some of what she's saying is true, but, like, this just can't be. And, you know, I really care about this person. It's just not possible. I don't think this person meets those criteria. But I really want you to consider that perhaps they do. There's nothing wrong with you for considering that. You're basing it on facts. Something I've said has struck a chord with you. And it's really important to examine that. You're not a bad person or a bad friend or a bad family member or even a bad coworker for examining the possibility that this person might be a cluster B or might be on that spectrum somewhere. Now, like I mentioned, though, it's really important that you don't allow this person to dictate to you and the rest of their support personalities, because, honey, I'm sorry, but they are developing you into a support personality. That's what they're doing. That's what they're grooming you for. And that's why they're doing this. That's why they're trying to get you to cut this person or group of people out. Now, I'm not saying that this individual that they're targeting didn't do anything wrong. Maybe they did. But if you're a professional, you know that you have to both work with and associate in life with people you don't like, and you still have to be respectful to them, and you still have to try to understand their point of view. You can't make assumptions about where other people are coming from. Okay? So this cluster B individual is going to start making hardcore assumptions. You know, this person looked at me wrong in a meeting, and then I saw them passing a note to their friend, and you know that was about me, and that they were purposely trying to trigger me. They will definitely tailor things in that way. Perhaps the person was passing a note to a coworker saying, would you mind lending me a phone or a computer charger? My computer or phone is about to die, and I want to make sure I can record everything that happens in this meeting. But in their mind, they're passing notes about how to best target me. Well, so I want you to not take them at their word. I'm not saying that you immediately disbelieve them. I'm saying that you question what's being said and use your critical thinking skills. And if you truly don't have evidence that that note was being passed, or that comment that was said, it had been geared towards smearing the narcissist or the cluster B, then please remember that and keep that in mind. You may or may not want to vocalize that and verbalize that with the narcissist. I mean, it's not going to help them, but it is going to establish your boundaries if you do that. And if you're in a group of people and the narcissist is trying to sway your opinion on this individual and sway everybody's opinion on them, then I really want you to say something. If you're in a group of people and this narcissist or this cluster B is trying to initiate groupthink and group speak, which is a cult behavior and a cult mentality, I want you to put the brakes on hard. You don't have to be disrespectful or rude or discount their perspective or their lived experience or their thoughts or feelings. But you do want to come in and respectfully empathize with them, restate what they've said, and then say, gosh, I see that you're upset. I see why you might feel this way. I can understand how upsetting this must be for you. And I want to caution everyone not to leap to judgment. Sure, we may or may not like this person as an individual, but let's make sure that we reserve our anger for actual disrespect, right? So, basically just be empathetic, restate their concerns, and say, yeah, I did notice that possibly that person was passing a note during the meeting. And I can see why, with your history with them, this might be something that upsets you. And I think that while that's upsetting to you, I'm going to go ahead and use caution and reserve judgment until I have all of the facts. Now, this person might want to come through and say something like, well, you have all the facts. What do you mean? Well, no, you don't. You didn't see the note. You don't know what they were talking about, and it's not your place to judge. You may have a good idea of what they might have been talking about, but you have no evidence. And of course, the narcissist or cluster B is going to twist all of the little, imagined slights into looking like they're based in fact and evidence, but they're not. They're not. This person is just a convenient target, and like I said, they don't want to be the boy who cried wolf, so they want everyone else to ostracize this person until it's convenient, until if and when it's convenient to have that person back in their lives, or to use this person again for a purpose. So oftentimes they do this to people who they think might be dangerous to them. But rather, and they, the purity test comes in here. So I want to just make this point really quickly. The purity test comes in here. The purity test comes in when they say, well, how could you possibly, I saw you talking to this person and I saw you laughing with them. How could you talk to this person who's being so awful to me? Aren't you really a friend to me? Don't you care about me? And you're going to say something like, yeah, gosh, I can understand why that would be upsetting to you. And I think it's so important to maintain a professional work environment, even when it comes to possibly working with people we don't care for. And so I'm going to continue to be respectful to this person, even if they're disrespectful to me. So don't put it on them. Talk about this person's interaction with you. No dissing, no disrespecting, no name calling, no throwing shade, just simply, yeah, even if this person acts disrespectfully toward me, I'm going to continue to stay on the high road. And I'm going to continue to interact respectfully and professionally with them, because my actions speak for my character, right? That's all you need to say to this person, particularly if you're in a group of people. And, you might want to remind the narcissist or cluster B that, hey, not only do you catch more flies with honey than vinegar, but if you truly, as the cluster B person, if you're putting yourself into their shoes, you truly don't want somebody to have more evidence and more ammunition against you. Like, okay, for a minute, we're going to just suspend our disbelief, and we're going to say, okay, sure, maybe they're really targeting you. Maybe they're really on a campaign against you. Maybe they're really bullying you. Maybe they're really slandering you, right? Maybe they're really speaking out against your character. Well, okay, maybe, possibly, could be. And if that's the case, we need to be super careful and cautious with how we interact with this person, because anything at this point with open hostility, even with covert hostility, really, anything you say or do that is not of the high road and the highest and best, and anything you say or do that could possibly be construed in a negative light Sure, they could twist anything into looking negative, but if you say or do anything that's inflammatory or disrespectful to them, that just strengthens their case against you, right? So try to put it to the narcissist that way. Anything you say or do at this point will make the case stronger for them. And they might say, oh, I don't care, it's gone so far anyway. Well, that may be the case, but hey, I want to protect you. As someone I care about, I want to protect you. And so I'm going to continue to be respectful with them. That doesn't mean we're best friends. That doesn't mean that you can't trust me. And it's your choice as to whether you do continue to trust me or not. My choice is that I'm going to continue to be respectful to this person, as respectful as possible, and professional with this person, so that I don't create any other problems for you, right? How can they argue with that? And then if they want to cut you out of their life, you're better off for it. You are better off for it. You don't need to be in this. It is not your business. It's not your fight. And you certainly don't need to cut people out of your life because someone else deems it necessary. Unless you have physically or is physically experienced or seen some sort of written attack against you personally, you don't cut them out. And even if you do, you're still respectful and professional when you interact. And with a narcissist in the mix, you don't even know that what they said or did wasn't encouraged by the narcissist or set off by the narcissist. So you don't respond in anger. You are an adult, not a high schooler, right? So you wait for the facts, you stay out of things that are not your business, and you don't let other people determine who you don't have in your life, or who you do for that matter, and you don't engage in groupthink or group speak. Now, if you really are trying to be a supportive friend to this individual, perhaps you don't think that they are a cluster B, or you don't think that what they have accused this person or group of people of is fake. You think it's all real. Great. So be a good friend to that person by making sure that you don't drag them further into the situation. Be a good friend by not involving yourself in the situation. You don't need to speak for other people or defend them. That is their job. That is their job, and you do not need to speak out against people who you may need to work with. That is called burning bridges. That's not appropriate, and it's not professional. And when somebody asks or expects you to do this, that is a purity test. It is a trap, and it is extremely unhealthy. And guess what? It's disrespectful to you. As a human being, it is disrespectful to you. It's not okay. So think on that. Narcissists and cluster Bs like to surround themselves with confident people who have a strong moral compass, porous boundaries, but a strong sense of right and wrong. I used to be a coworker of a malignant narcissistic sociopath, and this person was more on the covert end of the spectrum, obviously, because they're a sociopath and not a psychopath, and a covert narcissist, not an overt narcissist, but they were absolutely malignant. And they would often brag that one of the people they surrounded themselves with, who was one of their support personalities, and by the way, please be honest with yourself and ask yourself some real questions about whether perhaps you are being made into or groomed to be a support personality or a flying monkey. And it's very likely that you are. If anything that I'm saying is resonating with you, it's very likely that you are. But I used to work with this person who was, like I said, a malignant, very, very unbalanced, narcissistic sociopath. And they used to brag and laugh about the fact that one of their good friends was their quote unquote pit bull. So this person never had to defend themselves because they had this other individual around to be their gatekeeper and to say and do the things that they wouldn't say or do. They had someone else around to do their dirty work. And again, it was somebody with a heightened sense of justice, but very porous, weak boundaries. So this is the kind of person they're looking for. And look, if you've been targeted before by a narcissist or a sociopath or someone on that cluster B spectrum, and you are relating to anything I'm saying, it's very likely that you are dealing with one again. If you've dealt with one once, you're very likely to deal with more. And the best thing you can do is to improve your boundaries. And while you may have a strong sense of justice and right and wrong about other people and other things, it's not your business. Don't get involved. If you, for instance, are seeing things written about in group emails or on social media about this person, rather than dive in and start name calling and what have you, if you even involve yourself at all, you're going to say something like, that's interesting that you say that. So this person, the narcissist or sociopath in your life, you're going to say, that's not my experience with this person. They've been very good to me thus far, and I don't agree with where you're coming from. And so I wonder why you've just said that, right? You're not going to come off and say, hey, asshole, or hey, you dick. You're not going to say things like that. You're not going to say, how dare you? You're not going to go on a slander campaign about them. You're going to say, gosh, that's an odd thing that you've just said. I wonder why you've said that. You seem like somebody who's fairly well respected in the community or at work or what have you, and I'm really not sure why you've said that, but okay, your life experience is valid too. My experience, however, with this person has been good, and I think A, B, and C about this person. They've been a good friend to me. That's all you need to say as far as standing up for that person, if even that. You don't need to involve yourself in other people's stuff. And again, if you've found yourself being targeted before and you're connecting with what I'm saying and it's resonating with you and getting the wheels turning, it's very likely that you are again. Now, I will say this. With regard to friendship and even close office and working relationships, if you're being targeted by a narcissist, that person is going to want to pull you in. They're not going to want to give you a lot of time away from them and outside of that relationship to consider other things. And if they do leave you alone, maybe you're just not their number one go-to person, but you're still being groomed to be a support personality. And they're just being very cautious with you because they know that you could very well end up spotting that they're a disordered person. So just because they're not always in your grill doesn't mean that they're not disordered. It just means that maybe they know that your boundaries are a little bit better than that person that they always keep by their side. They don't quite think they can manipulate you. So, they're not going to fully try to pull you in. But they will make comments to you and about you if you don't jump right on their bandwagon with the purity testing. They will say things like, well, if you cared about me, you'd say this. If you cared about me, you wouldn't associate with this person anymore. Well, if you cared, I just prefer people to be direct. And I just want people to tell that person that they're wrong. Cool. Why do you need that from someone else? Why can't you be the person to tell them when they're wrong? Right? And I will decide for me if and when it's appropriate to do the same. Right? You're not going to guilt me into doing that. And you're not going to manipulate me into doing that. And you're not going to play on our friendship or our work relationship or some, made up thing that you've done for me in the past. You're going to allow me to have my own agency, and you're going to allow me to make my own choices, right? So be very cautious, even if it's a friend, be very cautious if you're being pushed toward that purity test, if you're being pushed to cut people out of your life, if this person is trying to bring you in on their drama. That is red flag numero uno, and you need to step back. You can be professional and respectful with everybody. You can have a good working relationship with everybody. You cannot, however, be pulled into their sphere and come out of it okay. And guess what? No matter how much purity testing is done, at some point in time, this person is either going to distance themselves from you and then boomerang back around to you and hoover you back in, or they're going to discard you completely. No matter what you do for a cluster B, it's never enough. Please understand that. So make sure your boundaries are tight. Make sure that you are looking out for yourself. And don't let somebody else play you. Okay? So please consider this. This is a major, major issue and a major way that these narcissists and cluster Bs will target you and try to pull you in. And at minimum, 1 in 25 people are narcissists, sociopaths, or other cluster Bs, and that's at minimum. I want you to be very mindful of this. Don't get pulled in by a toxic person, and don't let that person play you. And guess what? Don't play yourself. Don't play yourself, right? Okay, folks, be well. As always, consider things carefully and balance consideration with action. Have a wonderful evening.